Saturday afternoon, July 6th, show number 146. Hot fun in the summertime, although on the East Coast, the humidity is just sucking the life out of me. Welcome to another edition of Soul Tree Radio in the Raw. I'm your host, Michael Lewis Ingram, DJ Honeycomb, and as always, it is good to have you in the house on a summer night, rather a summer afternoon. Kind of wish it was night if it gets a little cooler sooner, but we do what we do. Soul Tree Radio in the Raw, sponsored by the Black Athlete Sports Network, Roland Rogers, CEO in loving memory, our friends at Blog Talk Radio, our colleagues at WCLM 1450 AM, the soul of Richmond, Virginia. Cowboy Reggie and crew might be saddling up and riding a little later on. Our friends at WUFO 1080 AM in Buffalo, New York, The Mix AM, Pat Freeman, the mighty Oba, handling his business up there in Western New York, trying to take care of folks up there and get us some damn jobs. That's a whole other story, y'all. Our friends at Guardian Caps, Leon Aaron Hampton and Mike Feely, looking out for children of all ages to play safely. And our colleague, Anthony Johnson, good brother, really love the solid he did for us in our show. And I want to send a special shout-out to my brother Craig Stroman and his group, We Feed the Homeless Philly. He does good work. Doesn't look to get the fanfare for, but we got to show him some love. He's got a big event coming soon that we will hopefully have a chance to bring up on air, talking about it as we try to bring up more interest about what Brother Stroman does and what they would further endeavor to do if given license to do so. Now, as we step into this, the menu is going to be short but sweet because we've got a lot to cover the ground here. Now, we're going to start off, intriguingly enough, as we have one of our colleagues on the line. He's been on before. He's now officially part of the fam, although he already was. He covers basketball for us. He was representing the Black Athlete Sports Network at the draft. Travis Singleton. What's up, Trav?
How y'all doing today?
All right, and as always, Mr. Biggs himself, the badass man from Oakland and the East Bay, Gary Norris Gray. What's cooking, G?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
I understand. Well, we have to send some love, first of all, Travis's way. And, of course, we know Brother Satterwhite is part of our fam, and I find it amusing that ESPN spent all this time and effort to talk about a breaking news story when we had that shit broke a long time ago. I mean, Dwight Howard going to Houston was no surprise. Eric Satterwhite called that a long time ago. But we also were on top of everything that happened in Boston, courtesy of Travis here. So, Travis, first we'll tap into the Boston situation. You know, we spoke out loud about this. You broke down just about everything that happened from the trade, Doc, the split up of the Big Three. Now, give us the quick overview of that, and then tell us what's going to come of this now with the new coach, the former Butler coach, Brad Stevens, coming in, and the asinine statement that was made by somebody about how Rondo needs to be in a press conference with them to give him his endorsement or something.
Well, first of all, you know, Bostonians, we had a rough last week. You know, we had Aaron Hernandez. We lost the Bruins.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. Yep.
You know, we had a rough couple of weeks, and you know, when we left, the thing I didn't like about what Doc did, I respect Doc highly. First of all, I respect him highly as a coach. I believe he's the best coach in basketball right now. Especially after Greg Popovich's debacle in the 6th and 7th game.
Right.
So I would give Doc the you know, he's the best head coach to me. But the fact that he didn't just come out, you know, outright and just say, you know what, guys, I wasn't ready for this rebuilding stage. You know, I do want to go coach somewhere else where you know, I have established players and I can still contend. The thing that I feel like he obviously wanted to stay. A little part of him wanted to stay, But at the same time, if he was gonna leave, he wanted his players to come with him. He wanted KG, and he wanted Pierce to come with him. You know, and a lot of people, I know, including myself, I was at the draft sitting there, and I'm sitting there like, why did the Celtics just pick these bums in the draft? Like, I did not understand what was going on. I'm sitting there like they drafted somebody from Gonzaga, a 7-footer. His name was like Kelly something funny. He has a funny last name.
He's the kid from Canada. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. They got him out the draft, and I'm sitting there like, we have to do something tonight, you know. And little did I know, me and Gerald Hoove, we sitting next to each other, and you know, I get a couple of tweets from a couple of people around the Celtics organization, and they're like, yeah, KG and Pierce are about to be gone to Brooklyn, and I'm sitting there like, they don't know what they just handed Brooklyn, because now Brooklyn, their whole starting five is all-stars, and they're in our division. They're in our, you know, so we're going to have to see KG and Pierce a lot. And with that whole thing switching up, that was just telling me that, you know, Danny Ainge was ready to rebuild. And then after the draft, he started throwing out Rondo trades, talking to the Mavericks and the Hawks.
Oh, really?
Like,
so they were trying to trade Rondo.
They were trying to get rid of Rondo too.
Oh,
but what
shit.
you know what I'm saying? So my thing is, they had 3 trades lined up already for Rondo. They had one going to the Mavericks, which was going to send us Sean Marion. It was going to send us Sean Marion and 2 first-round picks for Rondo, and we was going to get cash for Rondo. Then there was another trade that had him going to Houston, and we was going to get Jeremy Lin. We was going to get Jeremy Lin, and we was going to get Jeremy Lin, and I believe the other guy, Asik, the center. And a first-round pick. First-round pick. Yep, a first-round pick and some cash for Rondo and Avery Bradley. And then there was another one with the Hawks where they was going to do a sign and trade with Josh Smith and Lewis Williams to the Celtics for Rondo. So those automatically came up right after the draft, and a lot of people kind of overshadowed it because of the situation with KG and Pierce. But
amazing.
I believe a lot of people misinterpret, you know, Rondo as a person. Like, when I sat down and talked to him, he just wants to win, you know. And, and a lot of people are making it look like he's trying to run people out of town, and I don't believe that's what the case is. He's just very competitive, and if you know, he feels like if he's winning, you know, if he's doing the right thing to win, then why change it? You know,
well, hold up, G, because we got to stop right at this whole issue of Rondo. You know, again, we brought this up a little while ago. When's the last time we saw Rondo smile publicly? That was when they won the championship, and he deserved to smile. They did the damn work. They won. You know, because he doesn't smile, all of a sudden he's got a fucking problem. If he's white, they'd say, well, he's intense. You know, he's a black man trying to win a championship. He's got a strong work ethic. If he's even considered eccentric because he got some money, so we can't say he's fucking nuts. If he's eccentric because he's working at his game, why are we to press him on that? If he was lazy, they would talk about him being lazy and how he's blessed with talent and all that, but he doesn't have the work ethic. So now apparently he's got all these things because the only fucking thing they can say about him is that he's not smiling. You know, so something's got to be wrong with him.
Honestly, I feel like Rondo is gonna eat that new coach alive. Like, I don't even think that he's ready to handle an NBA player's ego. Like, in college, they're not getting paid, so they have no egos. He's the first college coach we've hired since Rick Pitino, and he's back in college right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
So for them to sign him for 6 years for $22 million just tells me that they're ready to rebuild, and we're not going to be winning for a while. That's exactly what that's telling me.
From those trades, everything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, first of all, I want somebody on this panel right now to tell me one player that had Boston as their first choice to go to out of free agency. I don't think anybody can say they had one player that was like, you know what, I'm going to Boston. I have to go there. I want to play with Rondo, the new head coach. Nobody wants to come here. Nobody.
Well, you know why? Now that you asked the question, I think the reason why is because of the general manager. Look, ever since you guys won the championship, I got the feeling Danny Ainge never liked Rondo, and he was trying to trade his black ass from the jump.
Yes. Exactly. That's why I believe Rondo's going to do the same thing Ray Allen did, and was like, you know what? I'm taking my talents to blank, but it won't be Boston. I'll tell you that.
I hear that. We have the professor
in 2 years.
Yeah, we got the Professor Fred Whitted in the mix as well. And Fred, before you throw in, Gary, you assess what Travis just said. You know, we know back in the day when there was a draft that had more rounds than just a couple, it was almost a guarantee that any time there was a white player, even with marginal talent, who was going to take him? Boston. So, you know, from the look of all of the trades or the proposed trades that were there for Rondo, it sounded like they took several steps back with that same design in mind and hoping that they'd get, well, I don't want to say, because I don't think Boston would tank from a professional standpoint in that regard, but clearly if they're going to write everything off, I think it smacks more of the fact that they had more issue with Doc Rivers being as successful as he was than anything else there.
Well, I agree with you.
If you remember Boston history. Remember Boston history now. You look back at Bill Russell, who won the championship as a player coach.
Yep.
K.C. Jones, who was, okay, and then you had, the three black coaches in Boston. All three black coaches won.
That's a good point. I forgot about that.
That's right. Three black coaches in Boston. All three have won. Okay? So when they release Doc Rivers, Boston will not win another championship for many, many years.
Oh, you're in trouble, Travis. Sound like Brother G just put the curse on Boston, bro. But
that's what it sounds like.
But I
got no faith in this new coach, man. Honestly, like you can have a lot of success in college, but when you come up to a whole another situation that is brand new to you, you're the new coach. You have your team is in a rebuilding stage. We just busted the team up. So, and Danny Ainge keeps saying, "Oh, we're not going to tank. We're the Boston Celtics." I'm not buying into it. As a Bostonian, I'm not buying into it.
I heard that. Well, now let's see what the professor says if he's buying into it, because Professor, you may or may not know, Brad Stevens, the former coach at Butler, is now the Celtics' new head coach. And Gary just made an excellent point. You know, after looking at the Red Auerbach's resume, Bill Russell, K.C. Jones, and Doc Rivers have put championship banners up as coaches. Now, I'm not just a player. They've put up banners as coaches in Boston Garden, and now this cat's coming out of nowhere from college, and as Travis said earlier, you know, that's a whole different mindset. You're not going to be able to have these cats toting that bar and lifting that bale at this level and getting away with that crap that you were in college. These cats are on level now, and, well, we know what they say. Money talks, and you know what runs the marathon. First of all, good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon. As some of you know, I am not a fan of Boston.
I never would have guessed.
In as far as Black history goes, the one thing I can say about Boston, they were the first team to put 5 blacks on the floor.
Yes, they were.
They were one of the first teams to have more than one HBCU player on the team at one time.
Yes, they were.
And that's about the only good thing I got to say about Boston. The Boston Bruins have some fairly decent colors, I think, as far as the hockey team, but I only watch hockey for the fights.
I agree with you.
But on a more real tip, when is the last time Boston had a white coach who won?
That's a good point. Travis, you right there in the backyard. I can't think of one either.
I can't even think of one. Because we've been blessed with Doc Rivers for like 9 years. So.
Oh, Tommy Heinsohn? Wait, did you say Heinsohn?
That was Heinsohn.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it would probably be Tommy Heinsohn, yeah.
Because, in the kind of stuff you got to look at with Boston. Now, to the best of my remembrance, before the Larry Bird, Ainge, and what's his name?
Kevin McHale.
Kevin McHale and those kind of guys. Before they came along, the white guys at Boston were usually a bunch of lummoxes. I mean, think about it now.
Marginal.
John Havlicek and Bob Cousy are the last white athletes, for the only early white athletes they had there. They had Chuck Connors there. They had I can't remember the other guy. A couple of other guys.
Don Nelson.
Well, Don Nelson was a big fat dude. He was almost as fat as.
No, Heinsohn was the fat dude. Heinsohn was the fat dude.
Heinsohn was. Well, at least Heinsohn was only about 6'4". Nelson was maybe 6'6", and was some and I use this loosely, somewhat more athletic than Heinsohn. But the only real white athletes they've ever had in Boston in basketball before the Bird era, and think about it, Bird wasn't the most agile guy. Bird was just persistent and got all the calls his way. McHale was a good athlete. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Even Danny Ainge, when he could keep his temper, was pretty decent athlete. Because he played other sports too.
Yeah, he played baseball. Played at baseball more like it, but yes.
But when you think about it, Boston has won in spite of a lot of stuff. I mean, they use brothers to get them over the hump. You have, when you think about it, before Bill Russell went there, you had Clyde Lavelli and the other clown that went to St. Louis and helped screw
Cliff Hagan. Clive Lavelli. Yeah, Cliff Hagan.
And they helped screw over Cleo Hill along with Bob Pettit. And it actually set up the stage for Boston to get 10 championships while St. Louis got 1. But so if Boston, I mean, like I said, that's the only good thing I got to say about Boston. Beyond
you throw that in the pot though, and Travis, your first impression, aside from Stevens being overwhelmed, as Cowboy Reggie's in the mix, what makes them think that Pierce and Garnett are so over the hill that they'd be so arrogant as to basically give them to the Nets, because the Nets do want to win now? And you're right, they've got Brook Lopez. You're talking about a front court now: Lopez, Garnett, Pierce,
Joe Johnson,
Williams, and Joe Johnson. That's a bomb squad.
We handed that to them. That's gift wrap.
Yeah.
But there's one thing about that team. They had Jason Kidd as the coach. Now, we all know rookie coaches have difficulty rookie coaches to win the first year.
True.
Yeah.
Now, what Jason Kidd need to do is surround himself with older coaches. One defensive coach, one offensive coach.
That's what he's doing.
But he did that already, G. If I remember, Travis, I believe he signed Frank. He signed Lawrence Frank.
Yeah, Lawrence Frank. Yep.
Okay, so he's got Frank there on his staff already. But Jason Kidd has something that Brad Stevens doesn't have. He's got credibility.
He has that game.
He's been there 19 years. They're going to listen to him immediately on the strength of those 19 years. There's no rookie that can have an attitude and step to him, because he gets smacked upside the head with 19 years of experience and a championship. So shut up and sit down, and this is where we're gonna do this. You know, and Cowboy Reggie's in the mix here. I'm sorry, go ahead, Travis.
No, I was gonna say, you know, Stevens, he didn't really play a lot, you know, in his basketball days. You know what I'm saying? So he's one of those nerds. He's a nerd. You know, he's one of those that stayed up and read Bill Russell's books and Phil Jackson's books and Pat Riley's books. You know, as in, you know, Jason, like you said, Jason Kidd played in the league, so he understands it a lot more. The thing that gets me with Stevens is just the fact that, like, I think he's trying to make the transition a lot easier than what it really is. And, I mean, everybody's opening, you know, everybody's talking like, oh, you know, if he fails, we fail too because we didn't give him the players. But right now, as an NBA team in general, we're not an attractive city to play in right now for free agents.
Well,
you know,
for real, I mean, I would think if quality of life has anything to say about it, and Boston's had this problem, and I say some love to my Aunt Gail, rest in peace, who used to live on Blue Hill Avenue in Dorchester.
Okay.
You know, the brothers don't get treated too well up there, and if they got that jersey on, they are courting some trepidation, shall we say. But as I throw Cowboy Reggie into the mix, Cowboy, you heard about the trade. Now we're going strictly with the Nets and the Celtics right now. We haven't talked about Dwight Howard yet, but Gary just said the Nets have a potential championship 5 to start with right now, and Boston basically gave it to them. Are we seeing a similar parallel here that we saw when Donovan McNabb got traded to Washington?
You know, first of all, greetings, Sultry Nation. Pleasure to come in with this illustrious panel of knowledge, Nazarenes, and also Deacons for Defense of Justice. So I bow and say thank you, John, for allowing me to come in. But in all due respect, 2 things trouble me about this trade. One, as I talked to you, Mike, about they want to sit up here and paint Rondo as this malcontent, but as I said in our show, Larry Bird didn't smile either. And I don't hear him say that, but it's amazing when a European athlete doesn't smile. Oh, he's concentrate. Oh, he's into the East End spies in the chat room. Good day. How you guys doing? Make sure you get the information right and use on the show later on. But I digress.
You get that shit right.
You know, but the sad thing about it is that when I see the way the Mouse has gone after Doc Rivers, talking about he quit on Boston, you know, which was a lie. And Boston, and Doc being a class act said, well, why do I need to deal with this clown? You know, he's nothing but a little smug, arrogant punk up there with Magic and them. And I'll just say this, guys, what really pissed me off is, and Dr. Pitt, we're not talking about this, they are now, I mean, I'm staying on point, but now they got this sort of arrogance about them, the Mouse, that they can just say any and everything they want, and the black athletes swallows it and takes it and doesn't even challenge them. But yet, when you had the white boy back in the day, when what was the Gary Hepburn, the news reporter doing baseball, and they said we're not going to talk to you anymore and boycott them. Then they stood up and said, no, y'all can't do that. What was the white guy name? The one I think he's talking about Pete Rose time, and they told him that we're not going to talk to you no more. That white reporter.
Oh yeah. Well, I know you're talking about
his name. Yeah,
I know you're talking
3 or 4 years ago.
But yes,
and I told Gary, I said, if a white boy stood up to a reporter and they trashed him, what do you think they're going to do to a brother? I mean, see Barry Bonds, you know. So I wish some of these black athletes would take more pride and stand for themselves, so some of this crap would be happening when they go after a Rondo or Doc Rivers down the ball.
Yeah. Well, now we've seen blips like this. We've seen Warren Moon speak up for Donovan and other black quarterbacks, and they all shut the fuck up because they know they can't say anything to Warren. Warren has 2 Halls of Fame busts, and he's got a fistful of championship rings, which is something a lot of these motherfuckers don't have. So they have to back the fuck up when Warren Moon speaks, and God bless him for doing so. But to your point, you know, we have to realize, y'all, in these ages of global warming and all kinds of environmental issues, ESPN is the only company where bullshit is a recyclable resource because they rehash this shit all the time. They did it with Doc Rivers. They did it with LeBron. And if I allow for Cowboy to give us a segue here briefly, they've done it with Dwight Howard. Now, as we stated earlier, you know, we knew that Dwight Howard was going to Houston. Now, it's all in our network, and we brought that out there, and Eric Satterwhite, who was our basketball maven, put that out there on another show, but all within the Black Athlete Sports Network universe. So it wasn't any news flash that he was going to Houston, but of course, Chris Broussard's dumbass made it sound like, oh, the world is on the edge now and whatnot. Everything turned flat because now Dwight Howard's going to Houston. They have spent time carving this brother ass up, and unfortunately, Dwight really caught it easy because they spent so much time carving up LeBron that Dwight was actually getting a pass on a lot of this shit, to be on the real.
Yeah, he was.
A lot of times they avoided talking about Howard because they delighted more in attacking LeBron James. But as Gary's article so accurately stated, now they're pissed because LeBron won. They can't invest as much energy in talking about what a failure LeBron is because LeBron didn't fail. So now they try to kiss up to his black ass by giving him whole bunches of segments about his story and the decision and all this other horse shit. Well, just these moves alone shows you that Dwight Howard isn't the brightest knife in the drawer because he tried to make a decision of his own. Or at least they tried to make it sound like he was making a decision of his own when he said he would tell everybody on Friday where he was going. So, of course, Broussard, like the asshole he is, and the rest of the mouse herd ran around and started stirring the pot, making it the lead on all of their mainstream shows and, where is he going to go? What's he going to do? And L.A. kissing up to him. And, it was ridiculous.
Michael, it was every 15 minutes. This is how bad it got. Every 15 minutes, it was the Dwight Howard story on ESPN. Every 15 minutes. For half a day.
Sure. It was
Mike,
every 15.
How bad it got? They talk about his 8 children, which I don't think should be brought up. If the man got problems wearing, protection, okay. But they said, with all these 8 kids he got, he go in Texas and save it on taxes. He can really save on baby powder. Is that really necessary? How's that a sports story?
He ain't rebounding and watching them kids at the same time. If it ain't got nothing to do with, and this is another part that really works.
That's what they do.
If this ain't got shit to do with his livelihood, what he's doing out there on the court, it's none of your damn business. But many of these athletes are stupid enough to say, oh, yeah, I'm going along with what you guys do. Put the microphone in front of me. I'll say whatever you want to say. That's horse shit. There's going to be a time where somebody's going to have to put somebody in check and they won't like it. And they'll pay a price for it. But the time will come because they do this shit too often. And when the ESPNs of the world get caught, the first thing out their mouth is, well, I'm not a journalist. I'm an entertainer. Fuck you. Entertain this.
But Mike.
Go ahead, hold on, Professor. Go ahead, Professor.
LeBron James said 3 weeks ago when he said, I am not talking 3 ESPN reporters. He didn't say which three
he should have named them. I know. I love that he did that.
What he did was he sent a warning to ESPN. You better back the fuck up.
That's true. Whoa, go ahead, Professor. Go ahead, Professor.
Whoa.
Well, I agree with Gary because, like I said, I don't watch this nonsense. So they don't talk about HBCUs as a rule. So that's my field. So, I take a what the hell approach with them. But having said that, I think it was Howard years ago when he was coming into the league and his dad was with him. I think his dad's an attorney. Right. Georgia or whatever it was. And what a nice, good, wholesome young man he was. Yeah. And I think about some of the interviews they did even back then, and I don't know how many years he's been in. Now even goes further back to Floyd Firestone when Mouse Network was much younger.
I remember that.
Floyd Firestone did the interview with Kevin Garnett. And basically, he was trying to piss on Garnett's mom because he said, well, he was, he said, well, don't you have an AG? Yeah, I think he said, like, don't you have an AG? He said, yeah, I do. But my mother is my mother.
That's right.
And he said, it's like, well, you're a grown man. He says, no, I'm 18 years old. And my mother is much my mother today as she was 10 years ago. if it had not been for her making the sacrifices that she did, then I wouldn't be where I am. And even to the extent that he talked about his friends and how his friends had to toe the line because if his mom said something in his house, it was her house, and what he said goes. Otherwise, they go.
There it is.
Just that plain, just that simple. And you know, I look how as Mouse has progressed, certain things have come about, and not just ESPN, but the whole network that covers the NBA, all the networks that cover the NBA. Because I will never forget the night that had the Bad Boys been as much of the Bad Boys as they were supposed to have been, Larry Bird would have never played. I think Larry Bird or Kevin McHale would have never played again. One of them big white boys for the Boston Celtics would have gone person to the floor. He reached behind him and caught him, and the other one runs up and smacks him, and they're talking about how bad the guy was.
The Bad Boys
he didn't undercut him.
Yep.
He jumped, it's just like watching a Carolina player. They're always riding people's back. And he just fell over the guy's back. Well, but see, we've always painted this picture. And I had a friend of mine who was always telling about that. So he got a chance to see it slow down. He said, "Man, I'm sorry, because I see exactly what you saw." I was doing stats like this. I can watch a game without all. I don't care if they do a 720 rotation and then dunk it over backwards and all that stuff. It's 2 points to me. Yep. And I don't get all caught up in the whole, the throwing the powder and all that. I mean, that's not even basketball. That's just, you want powder, some powder your baby's behind and go about your business as far as I'm concerned.
The action.
But the grip on the ball.
Yeah, but see, if you can grip the ball all you want to. If you can't shoot, you can't shoot. It was just like with the steroid thing. If you can't hit, you can be big as a house. If you can't hit, you can't hit home runs. If your batting average is 200, you might not even be on the field to use the steroids for the steroids. It was a bunch of bull. And see, baseball, we sports entertainment has become too much about entertainment and not about sports. Because when you think about it, when you truly think about it, what are the real stories? What are the real stories? I'm listening to the Braves play the other night, and I'm sitting there thinking, you moron, you are. They were talking about one of the Upton brothers. One, one is sort of lighting up the world, the other one's struggling. And I don't know what part.
BJ's having the struggles. Justin's playing well.
And and I say, now the combination of the two brothers. Think about it now. Baseball, two brothers from the same family, not just two brothers.
That's right.
On the same team, and they're trying to marginalize one.
Exactly.
And here we go again. This is just another aspect of this bull crap that's put out there as quote sports entertainment.
Fred, you said it right on. You hit it exactly right. That they look to diminish and dissect negatively aspects that have nothing to do with the fucking game, and that's why I rail on these sons of bitches, because ultimately it is about the game. It should be about. Well, the Braves lost 5-4 last night on an error that led to a throwing error that allowed a guy to come home, and that made the difference in the game. That's the facts of the game. Now, the facts might be boring sometimes, but the facts remain the facts, and that shows you what led to whatever it is that happened. ESPN has had this nasty habit of coloring, in a negative way, issues that are facts. Now, here's a perfect example, and this is why they're their own worst enemy, because it's not like I'm saying anything against them. I'm using their own information against them. Jamel Hill, a day or so ago, talked about, as they were tearing a new hole up Dwight Howard's behind, how Howard averaged 17 points and 12 rebounds a game. Now, Travis, since you are the one whose nose is close to the grindstone here, I would say that as far as centers are concerned, 17 and 12 would put him somewhere in the top 3, would it not?
Yes, I will.
So, having said that, a player who's contributing 17 points and 12 rebounds a night, and we're not even talking about the block shots. So we already know that Dwight's on defense when he is on. But 17 and 12, but yet they talked about him like he was an abject failure because agents of the Mouse wanted to piss on Dwight Howard because they sucked Kobe Bryant's you-know-what, and because L.A. is a glamour spot. You wouldn't hear this kind of talk in San Antonio, no matter whether the Spurs were good or bad. Fred hit it on the nose a couple of weeks ago. It's a small market, and the fact that they succeed in spite of the NBA is to their credit. But here's Dwight Howard doing work every night. You know how many teams around the league would be glad to get 17 and 12 from their center?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, who we got? We got Lopez in New York, Lopez in Brooklyn. You know, Marc Gasol in Memphis.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there really ain't that many more. Bynum, he had a chance to chill out for a whole year, but he wasn't giving Philly what they thought he was going to give them. But here's somebody who's 17 and 12, automatic, every time he steps on the floor, and you'd have swore he was the worst thing in the world. And now that he's in Houston, this asshole Broussard is going off on a tangent about, he must win now. He must win now. Chris Broussard, Jamel Hill, and all the spies that are in my chat room, fuck you. Kiss my black ass to the pinkest part. Because here's your reality. Hold on, guys. Let me finish this before I pass it around. Hold on, G. Because this has been simmering me for a while. Nobody, and I'm bringing this up because I want everybody to hear the connection and the comparison. Nobody ever says a fucking thing about what a scrub Dan Fouts was. Now, for those who don't know, Dan Fouts went to the University of Oregon, was a professional football player, quarterback the San Diego Chargers, and their famous Air Coryell offense. All right? He threw for a lot of yards because he had a lot of talented people around him. He had Charlie Joyner, HBCU, Graham University, Hall of Fame wide receiver. He had Kellen Winslow, Mizzou,
Senior.
Hall of Fame tight end. He had Wes Chandler, multiple-time Pro Bowl wide receiver. He had John Jefferson, multiple-time Pro Bowl wide receiver, San Diego State. Had Chuck Muncie, multiple Pro Bowl tied running back. He had Lionel Little Train James, Pro Bowl running back. He had James Brooks, multiple-time Pro Bowl running back with San Diego and Cincinnati after he left San Diego. And with all of those talented people around him, how many Super Bowls does Dan Fouts have?
None.
Class?
How many did he go to?
None.
Thank you.
None.
Thank you. There you go. So, but we don't hear about Dan Fouts. We don't hear about Dan Fouts being an abject failure, do we? If anything, he's not smiling either. You know, he's got his beard looking like Grizzly Adams, and they love that shit. So, no disrespect to Fouts, but we know if Dwight Howard doesn't win this year, they will attack him in the self-same manner that they attack LeBron James. And I'm putting that out there so everybody understands the difference. It is a black thing, and we do understand that they are vicious about tearing down this man's character when all he's doing is playing fucking basketball. I'm sorry, G. Now, you go ahead, G. Go ahead, G.
But, okay, you have, I'm looking at the Boston Celtics record right now.
Yep.
Think about this, fellas. How many championships did the Boston Celtics won? 17, right?
Yep.
17.
Yep.
That's the last 10 have been black coaches. Bill Russell won 2. E.D. Jones won 2.
Yep.
Larry Bird won 1. And you add up all the last coaches from 1997 to 2004, it goes close to that Rivers. Okay? Rick Pitino, O'Brien, and John Carroll.
And didn't win shit.
They win nothing. And Don Russo won 1
Yeah.
This is the kind of nonsense we're dealing with here.
This is what translates from the coaching bench to the actual players, and this consistency, this poisonous consistency, runs through the core of what ESPN is about. Now, for somebody who would like to say that I'm some angry Negro spouting off a whole bunch of shit, think about
angry
this.
Black man. You're an angry black man.
When these motherfuckers have their production meetings, just like when we have our production meetings, we talk about what we're going to talk about. When I start the show, I give you a rough overview of what's on our menu. So when the 6 o'clock Sports Center comes on, these motherfuckers have already decided who the fuck they're going to trash and how they're going to go about it. And I got to bring this up because I'm up to here with this. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the Twilight Zone because it's higher than 92 degrees and I want to kill a motherfucker today. But the bottom line here is that
how you really feel.
The bottom line here is that this shit goes on too often and it's not addressed. These motherfuckers need to be put in check. And because they need to be put in check, we need to bring it up. We need to remind people when they do this stuff. That's like, wait a minute. You know, when they started it on the LeBron stuff, and after Gary wrote the piece and they started this, now we got to suck on LeBron's ass and whatnot and be nice to him, it wasn't so much about doing that as it was just trying to make sure that shit was correct. You shouldn't have did this in the first place, but you wouldn't let your own selfish interests get in the way. Every time they were slamming LeBron and they talked to potential advertisers, they let them know, during prime time, your product will get more notice because we're talking about LeBron and how we're going to do his ass in, how we're going to dehumanize him. Now, LeBron had more class than these motherfuckers did to say, 3 of you motherfuckers I will never speak to again. He could have said, I will never speak to ESPN again. He could have. And what were they going to say?
He should have.
You can't? See, that's what I'm talking about. Athletes have to be more aware of what's going on. They have to speak up when something's not right. When Terrell Owens told that motherfucker Ed Werder that you lied, they didn't say anything. Did anybody sue Terrell Owens for libel? Did anybody sue Terrell Owens for slander? Because he told the fucking truth. Ed Werder lied. And when people miss the story, that's part of the problem. Because if they were so busy paying attention to Terrell Owens when he was talking and he was saying stuff they didn't like, well, when he said something that registered red flags to anybody else, why didn't you stop him and check him? Excuse me, Terrell Owens, are you insinuating that Ed Werder? No, I ain't insinuating shit. He lied. And you didn't hear Pete, did you?
Nope.
Yep. It was quiet.
And nobody. See, the deal is, okay, Terrell Owens did that, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody from the black community said, hey, he's right.
That's right.
Only Michael and me and a couple other writers are the only ones saying, hey, you better cut it out. And then more people would say that, hey, you better stop your BS.
It's consistent.
I think it would stop. But
we're putting
so unchecked.
lives are being.
Terrell Owens had to go through what he had to go through, and now Albert got to go through what he had to go through. Somebody like who's in the industry, and say, okay, you gotta stop this right now.
But see, Mike, this is my issue. My issue. Every time when you try to approach, okay, how many times you guys try to approach some of these athletes to come on this station, other station? Oh, well, what's your listenership? Oh, what's your viewership? Oh, my agent has to prove it. But yet these are the same people, a.k.a. Adrian Danley, when David Fox stole his money, when they tried to get him on Harold Bell's show back then, these people didn't want to come there. But these are the same people that fought for him. That's the same problem we have there. You got, and guys, I talked to Dr. Witt about this again. Now the mouse is going after the high school students. They are planting this seed with the high school students. This really angers me because I want to throw this in the pot if I may. Okay, they had a so-called sporting combine where they had the high school athletes running drills who already have committed to certain colleges. Now, Dr. Witt, tell the audience right now that if these young men run and blow a knee or hamstring out, what's going to happen to their scholarship, Dr. Witt?
Exactly.
Well, first and foremost, they're going to learn there is no such animal as a 4-year scholarship.
Thank you.
And your scholarship is renewable up to 4 times, provided you're healthy and your school is wealthy and you stay on the good side of the coach and several other little things. But, you know, when you're doing this, all this jumping into and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with the game, the intro is more important than what your energy you spend. You spend more energy getting ready for the game and doing introductions. You know, just waiting for you to step on somebody's foot and turn your ankle till the bone hits the floor. You will hear the snapping noise, which I've heard twice.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm talking about doing a warm up.
Yep. Oh, that's even worse.
You know, that's going. You know, eventually somebody's going to step on the side of somebody's foot, and there goes your game for that night, and possibly your knee for your life.
That's right.
You know, now think about it. It's not just the mouse, because remember some years ago, and I wish I could remember what this boy's name was. He was 14 years old. He was 6'6", 6'7", kid from California, and he was going. They were talking about him going to a Nike high school.
Yes.
Now, this was where Nike had started taking over high schools a la AAU.
Right.
The high school coaches who were the reputable coaches were being pushed out. People like, I think his name is Coach Carter out in California, who benched his team because somebody was screwing up in class, and they wanted to hang him. You know, and those kind of coaches were being pushed out of the mix to some of these buttholes that call themselves coaches, who basically pimping these boys to AAU starting at 10, 11 years old. And see, this whole thing about the warm-ups and all that kind of stuff, you know, some of these guys doing this warm-up stuff ain't even going to get in the game.
That's
so
exactly
what's the big deal about you know, what they're doing? And I talk to players like, you know, why do you go through all that? It's theatrics. Well, we got to get hyped for the game. You know, I had the opportunity to speak to my high school coach the other night for the first time in a number of years. He's 80 years old, so Coach E, right on Bulldogs. You know, and we were talking about the differences. You know, and he said, well, you know, basically what we did back then was they're the enemy, go kick his ass. You know,
really?
Like, I like it. It's simple. I love it.
Real simple.
And you know, and for for those who don't know, I'm working. I'm working on the history of black high schools. So I've had the opportunity to talk in the black high schools in North Carolina, and I've had the opportunity to speak with old coaches and players from pre integration days, and you know, the most, and I'm gonna say this as nice as I can. Winston-Salem State in '67 won the national championship, and their way was basically the way other teams did. You know, what's your chant before the game? You put your hand in together, kill an ant with an axe, kill. Let's go kill somebody, you know. And this is how you played. And they went out and put it. Hey, there was nothing left at the end of the game. You know,
that's what I'm talking about.
There was not a lot of overtime games. But see, we have gotten into this ESPN mania. We got into mouse mania, whatever you want to call it, because everybody now thinks they have this great panacea of television. And we got jackasses like Dick Vitale out there. I thought I'd gone to the lowest of respect with Al McGuire, with how he kept giving Dean Smith credit for the four corners and some other things.
Yep. When it was John McClendon.
Anyway, it's like a matchup zone and all that kind of stuff. But see, those things were being played at HBCUs because I mean, what did you have to defend against white boys? Bob Cousy was the only white guy, or the only guy in the NBA for about 10 years who dribbled behind his back and between his legs.
Exactly.
Pete Maravich learned to play basketball against guys like Larry Dunn, who averaged 40-plus points per 40. He averaged more points per game and won a state championship than Pistol Pete did. Pistol Pete goes to the state All-Star game, but they didn't allow blacks in 1965. Sorry.
Exactly.
You got to go. You got to go play with the Negroes.
And Fred, and when he had his moment, he got put in check by Dean Meminger from Marquette. His career went downhill from there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. And the only time he did fairly well was during the time he was with Boston, because Boston had a bunch of black players. Exactly. And then, and see, Pistol Pete used to go. Pistol Pete proved that racism, as far as blacks were concerned, was mostly a moot point. You just played ball. There was an article done a few years ago about black versus white, and how all these great black ball players were around in the late 50s, early 60s, and they were ignored. And see, our kids now can't relate to that, because anybody with a camera going to shoot them. Yeah. And then they're gonna put them on YouTube, and then one kid I know who ended up at an HBCU, and his dad and everybody and his first cousin were talking about how he was gonna go D1. Well, first of all, he weighs like 160 pounds and 6'7". He is strong and wouldn't work out. And different things I was trying to recommend that he should do. Right. Oh, we got this. Well, not one. He was on YouTube and he got a great dunk on somebody. Well, right. they would try to prevent getting posterized more than anything else. Exactly. But that's the highlight for 4 years of high school. And see, our kids got to get a grip, and our parents got to get a grip, because all this theatrics, when it comes down to playing, if you can't put the ball in the basket, you can't play. Exactly. Nobody, and you were talking about Howard. Think about it. We can remember when 20 points for a center, a good center, 20, 22 points, 25 points a game, 15 or more rebounds, block shots. That's the norm. That shit was the norm. I mean, the only true great one I say that didn't score a lot of points was Bill Russell, but Russell was a passer. He didn't have to. Right. Yeah. Russell had he had 4 shooters on the floor with him. Exactly. At least 3 at all times, because give him credit. Heinsohn was short and fat, but he could shoot. Yeah. Nelson was a good outside shooter. Sam Jones was definitely a good shooter. Sam Jones, and when necessary, KC Jones, and they didn't need that they didn't need the 20 points from Bill Russell. They needed him to block the middle and rebound, which is what he did. But and to your point, no one ever recognized Russell for being the cerebral basketball player that he was until very, very late in his career. And it was annoying, Travis, since you're there in Boston, to see them talk about him after the fact, after the damage was done. Oh, Bill was sorry we did you like that. Fuck that noise. They knew exactly what they were doing. And that Cousy didn't stand up and speak on that shit is definitely to his detriment. But it's indicative of how they allowed their own personal prejudices to get in the way of the personal excellence those black players, especially Bill Russell, brought to your town.
I feel like the NBA is actually paying homage to Bill and Wilt Chamberlain right now, because without those two, the state of black ball players as big men would not be relevant right now. And I think that's why NBA TV is running all these specials on them now. Like they showed Wilt 100 points the other day, and now they named the Finals MVP after Bill Russell. So I feel like this is the NBA's way of saying, you know what, we messed up. When you was relevant, we didn't give you the credit, and now we're giving it to you now before it's too late.
Guilt. I feel it's guilt because we just talked about these high school players, but people don't realize that lives are affected by this shit. Listen, I got to put my foot in ESPN's ass again. When the stories came out about Vince Young supposedly being suicidal, did we get any follow-up from anybody to verify these things? No. We heard ESPN's side and nobody else's. There wasn't a local feed from the Houston affiliate for ABC, NBC, or CBS verifying what was supposedly being spouted by ESPN. we had their own reporters there joking about it. We had that stupid bitch again, Jamel Hill, saying, Vince did this and Vince did that. Well, you know what? If you were so fucking close to Vince, why didn't you just call Vince and ask him what was going on? I was waiting for that. I was waiting for one black reporter, any color fucking reporter. Call Vince, ask him what was going on.
Exactly.
Nobody did. Nobody did a fucking thing. And when I was on another show, I brought this up. And we had somebody on, a black writer from another paper, I'll say a writer who's black, writing for another paper. And because it was a mainstream paper, he gave some mealy-mouth ass answer. Because all I simply asked was, why didn't you contact him? Why didn't you contact his agent? I mean, those are logical questions, right? Those ain't black questions or white questions. Those are logical questions. Why didn't you just ask the man what the fuck was going on? And nobody said shit. And you know what he said? Well, it is what it is. Bullshit.
That's crazy. See, my take on that is, first of all, to follow up what Fred said a little earlier about the high school players, right now, Nike's already prepping up D-Wade and LeBron's kids. They already have highlight tapes right now of them playing basketball. D-Wade's kids like in 5th grade, and they already got a 6-minute video on him on YouTube, crossing up kids, making shots, and everything like that.
Crazy.
So I'm telling you. So they start these people off. They start them off really, really early. And the thing that actually kills the game now, like said earlier, is more entertainment than sport. Because now Nike's running the whole circuit. Nike, Adidas, Reebok.
Wow.
They're running the whole circuit now, because these kids coming up, they don't see the big picture. They see right now who's interested in them and trying to get them out there as a promotion. So if they do get hurt in high school, just trying to do one of these drills or do one of these basketball camps or something like that, and that's gonna be on the athlete. That's why they have all these big athletes like Kevin Durant, LeBron James. They have all these Nike camps. But what happens if that player gets hurt at one of those Nike camps?
Sure. Hold on a second, guys, because Gary. Oh yeah, no, I hear you, Travis. Hold on, because G has got to go prepare for the Gray Leopard Cove. Gary, we didn't get a chance to jump on this, but we will, even after you leave and on your show. So throw in something in the pot and give us a preview of the Cove at 4 o'clock.
This man was not an Indian chief.
Oh, shit.
He proclaimed that the Washington Football Club name is a good name. The Aleutian tribes of Alaska, which the Inuit chief, who claimed to be, calls himself the R word. Now, last I checked, I don't know anybody that calls themselves the R word. I don't know about you guys. I don't know where this guy came from, but he needs to go back.
No joke. No joke, Gary. I can tell you, having lived in Western Canada for 12 years, Native Americans, or rather natives, are referred to as First Nations. You are either talked about in terms of your tribe or your band. And in the time I've been there, I interacted with a lot of First Nations brothers and sisters. I never heard the R word used as any kind of greeting, welcome, or even as a pejorative. So this guy's full of shit, and we're going to talk about him later on in the show. But obviously at 4 o'clock, Brother Gray, who is a proud Lenape tribe, he's going to do some scalping, y'all. So y'all better check him out at 4 o'clock, The Cove, right here on Blog Talk after we're done here at Soul Tree Radio on the Raw. So Gary, just
special guest, Kathleen Wells with the KCAA Los Angeles. We want Trayvon Martin case today.
All right, Kathleen Wells from KCAA bringing up the Trayvon Martin case. We'll be taking calls as well. So it's a jam-packed 2 hours on the Cove. Check them out, 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock on the Pacific Coast. All right, G, before we get into that before we get into the Washington thing, though, I want to finish up on some of this other basketball stuff because as you see things now, Travis, with what the league is doing and what the league is looking like. Now, you already know Boston's going to catch a hit in terms of exposure, depending on whether there's any more blockbuster trades in the offing, which I doubt. But it looks like from an exposure standpoint, they're not going to get as much love. With Dwight moving to Houston, that's got to change the TV guys' attitude towards things. From a fan's point, how do you see this translating on the TV set?
I already said it I said it yesterday to one of my close friends. I said Christmas Day is gonna be Lakers in Houston, and it's gonna be Boston. It's gonna be Boston versus Brooklyn. You know, that's just how the NBA operates. You know, so at the end of the day, the NBA tries to set up all the controversy matchups. You know, and with Dwight going to Houston, I actually believe that was the best fit for him, because now all him and James Harden have to do is try to sell Josh Smith into getting over there, which they've already had him there. As I heard, he's in Houston today. So if they get him aboard, you know, anything is possible. You know, so my thing is with the whole TV setting, Houston's gonna get huge ratings. This is gonna be the first time they get huge ratings nationally since, you know, T-Mac and Yao Ming, or maybe even Steve Francis and Cuttino Mobley. So this will be huge. But at the same time, I don't believe that Dwight was given his full 100% because he just came off the back surgery. So this last season, for him to still do, you know, the 17 and 12. 17 and 12. That was impressive already because he wasn't fully recovered. Now he has the big check, and he's actually in a destination where it's only his face now. His face is on the billboards and not Kobe and not everybody in his ear talking about Shaq. This is actually his time to be like, you know what? I got a good player in James Harden besides me, so I'm about to lift him and bring him on my back, and I'm about to be the dominant center that everybody wants me to be, and I'm gonna shut it down. Because if they do play the Heat, if they do play the Heat, it's gonna be over because the Heat don't have nobody that can hold Dwight Howard at all unless he gets himself in trouble.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, you brought up a great point. We didn't even mention that Howard was hurt, and then he had obvious back problems. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, I got a little owie here. I mean, he was laid out in stretches, you know, because of his back, and they were questioning his manhood because of it. And it might have been something where, and Fred, this is where I want to come to you because we've seen and we know how coaches do. Just like you said, when coach said go kill, my coach used to tell me, enjoy the fact that if these guys call you nigger, you have the esteemed pleasure of spending an hour whipping their ass. And damn if I didn't enjoy that shit. Because we damn sure at the end of the game, there was no more nigger coming out of their mouths when the game was over. That's fact. But you hear this, and you know maybe another coach with better bedside manner would have dealt with Dwight in a different manner. That D'Antoni did what he did with this system, it speaks to the whole issue because nobody's blaming D'Antoni for being a lousy fucking coach. You know, has D'Antoni won any titles? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, he don't have any rings, but yet Dwight Howard seems to be the source of their scoring.
Well, that's just more the really pitiful scenario that goes on with the NBA. You know, yes, we had a way of dealing with people who called us nigger. We had a way of dealing with people who did a lot of things to us. One of which, you know, we used to have a play. We would call a rip. And that meant it was a pick play. And a young man, Big D, I just won't put all of his business out there, but Big D was like 6'2", about 225, 230. And the last time I saw him, maybe 15 years ago, he was still 6'2", about 230. And you know, we would run a pick off of him. And see, you know, and the first pick was never the good one. It was when you came back through, you had to meet him. Yeah. And you know, he was solid as a rock. You know, when we transferred, when they closed our school, and you know, they said, what position does he play? Well, you know, what do you mean, what position? Whatever position he wants to play. And you know, and usually that was tackle. That was offensive, defensive tackle. But you know, he was a solid brother. And he could catch you, he could step into you from the blind side, and I swear, we hated practicing against him. I was so glad when I got pushed up to varsity, or when we got pushed up to varsity, we got spread out some more. But when you look at this whole scenario, we talked about him being hurt. The problem we're going to run into with all of this is chicanery of the entertainment side of all this, where the NBA steps up and using their they don't really wear the gray shirts. I think they are now with the whistles. Mm-hmm. You're going to see some really nitpicky calls against him first quarter, second quarter, and so he's going to have three fouls with they play 12-minute quarters, so he's going to sit 6 minutes in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. He'll pick up his second foul in the third quarter, so he's going to sit another 9 minutes. So he's only played, say, 9 out of,
36 potential minutes. Yeah, 24. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
So now he's going to come back second half. He's going to be rested, but guess what? Mm-hmm. He's going to get a foul in the first 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So now he's got 4 fouls. And we got, 22 minutes left?
20-odd minutes left, yep.
So he can't play hard. Mm-hmm. He's got to play very careful if he's on the floor at all. So this is how they're going to render him, I'll say, incompetent. Because that's what they're going to say about him. He's incompetent.
Yep.
And see, when we look at all this like I said, we as a people, as a nation, have bought into the entertainment side of sports much more so than the sports side of sport. And because of that, we see these games with a jerk like Dick Vitale calling, and think about, I have the utmost respect for Duke. My nephew and niece went there and all that kind of stuff. They were schoolmates of Grant Hill. And I admire people like him and a lot of other boys who played there. But I also understand that the money side of all this really corrupts it. And even people of the integrity of the likes of Krzyzewski and others, they become part of the package. They're the ones who get paid $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million just to wear Nike shoes.
That's right.
Now remember, they get this without the players getting a thing. And if you're not careful, the players can't even keep the shoes after they've worn them the whole year. Because
you got that right.
And the NCAA may say, hey, that's a benefit. So you can't play no more. And don't think for a minute that NCAA and NBA are not in cahoots together. If you think that's true, look at where most of the players come from, and look at this. Follow the line of ascension with who signs where.
Yep.
Who gets the top draft choices, and from there, where they end up market wise. And if you ever notice how some of these guys who come in as high draft choices to marginal or low markets, how fast they end up in a large market. And Kobe said, "Well, I don't play in Philadelphia." You're from Philadelphia, fool.
That's right.
And see, I'm so glad that his light has gone out just enough so he can come down to earth and start acting like he's a human, and he's not. Because he tries to act like he invented basketball. And we know what.
Oh hell yeah!
Everybody wants to talk about how great Kobe is. How great Kobe is. Michael was not a great ball player until Michael got help.
Yes.
Kobe had help, but he wanted it all about himself.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, it ended up costing him rings. Because has he won? How many? He won one since Shaq left.
One.
Yep.
One. If they had stayed together, the league had it set up for them to be successful forever, for all of the reasons that you just asked and implied, and the TV factor. Because if we're talking about Kobe and Shaq being on the Sacramento Kings or the San Antonio Spurs, that shit ain't happening without some conflict. Nothing was more evident to me was when the Kings and the Lakers were playing, and as you stated, the referees literally took that championship berth away from the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, by right, had that championship won, and all three of their big men fouled out in the second half. One who had no fouls at all coming into the second half, because the league knew we had to make sure that Los Angeles showed up on the other end of the coast as being the Western Division champions. But I want to sidetrack just for a second, because you brought up coaches, Fred, and Travis, I want to come back to you, because this was something that was kind of missed in the finals, and it had to do with Coach Popovich. Now, I got mad respect for Coach Pop. I think he's a damn good coach, and he knows how to work with what he got. But he said something that bristled me a little bit, and I don't know if you caught it, but he talked about how he implied European players are smarter, or I won't say smarter, he said more coachable, than the so-called North American, read the black players here. Now, we know Tony Parker's there, Manu Ginobili is he's actually from South America, he's from Argentina, so he's not European. But we got the gist of what he was implying here. And first I wanted to know if you heard it, and if there's any kind of meat in that sandwich with his statement about him truly believing that these guys are a little more on the tip on a basketball IQ than the brothers here.
I didn't hear that. This is my first time hearing it from you, but I believe that Coach Pop has something right there cooking in the pot, because at the end of the day, these players are coming over. He has Splitter, who I can't believe they re-signed to a 3-year, $22 million. I don't know why they signed him back. One of the most terrible players since Sean Bradley. But anyways, I don't know why they're going to sign him back. He's from Brazil. He's from Brazil. Tony Parker, France. Then you got Ginobili, Argentina. Then you got Gary Neal. I forget where he's from. But you have a lot of these players that are international, but at the same time, they're more prideful. They know where they came from, and they're playing. They're not only representing themselves, they're representing their countries. And it's a lot more different, because being a North American player, you're already born into it. You're already born into, all right, I want to be like Mike. As in, they want to be like Mike too, but they want to be the Michael Jordan of their country. So it's a total different culture overseas. So that's why they're more coachable, because they want to be winners. They don't want to be failures to their country. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. But I was cracking up over the premise of it, because I remember when they were first starting to bring foreign players over. I mean, when the NBA was making a conscious effort to market foreign players, and they had guys like Sharunas Marshallonis and Tony Kukoc, who they tried to say was the second coming, and Tony Kukoc didn't do shit for the Chicago Bulls, and Drazen Petrovic, who eventually became a good player, but as he was really starting to get the game, he died in that tragic accident over in Europe. But these new guys who come over here now, they got a little more. I'm with you on that whole premise that they really want to be good and they don't just want to take up a spot. But that moment in the finals when Thiago Splitter came down the lane on LeBron James and LeBron blocked that shot. Now, I know y'all know what I'm going to say here, but all I could do was sit there and say, I'm telling you, one of my personal heroines is Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who wrote a book called The ISIS Papers. Soul Patrollers, if you've never read the book, this is one sister that has the whole psychology about sports and racism down. Again, the name of the book is The ISIS Papers. It came out several years ago. But the dichotomy of the ball and the players and the colors of the players who play them, she nails it. If Splitter had posterized LeBron, how many times do you think we would have seen that on SportsCenter? How many times would we have heard about LeBron getting dissed? Now, it's not the first time LeBron would have been dunked on, because LeBron's been dunked on before. But the significance of this big white boy coming in here trying to throw down on LeBron, and LeBron throwing that shit back at him, was a racial dynamic in that split-second moment, whether people want to admit it or not, Fred.
Well, you know, we are more than aware of the racial factors that are in play here. You know, you listen to a game now, and you got the gentleman who used to play for Duke, who's an attorney, and he's all suave and the bone and all that kind of stuff. And but then you got a jackass like Dick Vitale, you know, Gypsy Dude, Dunkaroo, and all this kind of stuff. And I think back to the days when they used to basically malign Oscar Robinson and Bill Russell for shouting during the game because
I remember that,
quote, detracted from the quality. And then within 5 years, you got John Madden and a few others out there going wham bam and all this other stuff, which became the norm. But it was poor taste and all this other nonsense when the greatest players whoever put on a jockstrap when they were talking, it was bad taste. But all of a sudden, all these guys who can't walk through bubble gum are out there doing the same thing. And that's the way it should go. Because, you know, think about it. Dick Vitale was a loser with Spencer Haywood, one of the best scorers in the history of college basketball.
Damn right.
And he's been a loser ever since. I remember somebody telling me a story about running into Dick Vitale during a halftime break. And he wants to shake my hand. I know he hasn't watched him. So he's like, hell no, I'm not shaking your hand. Even later on, it's like, I'm still not going to shake your hand. Because he like I said, my problem with him was I got this little practice I do about books when they talk about college basketball. And one of the things I do is I look in the back. If I don't see Big House Gaines, if I don't see John McClendon and a few other coaches, and this is about all of basketball, and I look back there and I don't see Earl, I don't see Bobby Dandridge, don't see a few others in the back, you know, Grant, I don't see
Short.
you know, some of those guys who were scoring 2,000 plus points before there was a 3-point line, who averaged 30 plus a game before there was a 3-point line. Guys who would put it up, guys who were pulling down 15, 20 rebounds a game. If I don't see them, I don't read it. Well, it's a great book about the history of basketball. Not to me, it's not because I know you left out. You know, that's like putting a plate in front of me with no food on it. I mean, I don't need a fork and spoon and a knife if I'm not going to eat a meal. If I'm going to have a meal, I want a nice wholesome meal. I don't want the crap. And see, this is what has come to with, and this is what the Mouse Network is trying to sell us. They're trying to tell us that we did nothing when the game that we love. You know, when you see what John Thompson used to play, when you see what Richardson and a few others used to play, even what Duke plays today. Go back and look. In 1965 and 66, Hillside High School averaged almost 100 points a game for 2 years. And we were talking about 32 minute games. I think there was only 2 or 3 overtime games in 2 years because nobody was that close to them. And what do? Well, black guys don't play no defense. Well, how do we get the ball and go score? Outscore the other team by 100 points. We take the ball at half court. And white schools discovered real quick, oh, these Negroes do play basketball and play defense. Yes, because we pressed you. We would set the press when you got off the bus. When you close the door, to leave, we stopped pressing you. We waved you goodbye. But in between that time, and I can remember being at games when the team would go stand at half court during the timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why are they doing that? Letting you know, as soon as you walk out, we own you.
We'll whip your ass some more.
and see, the Pony Express was so good. They had 21 games. I just talked to the gentleman who was a forward at 5'9", but his job was to take the ball from the opposing forward. So, and see, these are the kinds of things these are the kind of stories that have not been told by us the way they should be told. And because of that, you get all the morons of the world, well, this is the greatest player based on what? Well,
exactly.
Think about it now. The average All-American today does not average 20 points, nor does he average double-figure rebounds. We're talking about from the 3 spot up. You have guards making All-America with five or less assists and steals per game.
That's right.
And these are quote the best players. Well, I go back to my Eric Montross scenario, and I'll temper it by saying I think the world of what Eric Montross did for the young man who was suffering from cancer at the time, and really it blew him out of the water so bad when the young man died that he was no more good the rest of the year. And the fact that he made All-America, even All-Conference, was a sham because he couldn't play. His mind was not in the game, so his behind couldn't do nothing. But having said that, Eric Montross couldn't block shots. The only thing that saved him and got him into the NBA was Eric Montross was white, 7 feet tall, and played at Carolina.
Thank you. That's exactly right.
And his teammate Salvadori was averaging 5 or more block shots a game, 5 more rebounds than he was, and he just was taught not to score.
Yep.
So
that's exactly right.
Having said that, they screwed him, and he was, as far as I was concerned, they screwed him, and he was white.
Yeah. Yep, it was about politics. I'm getting some love from the chat room regarding what you just said. The chat room says the NBA is trash today. Everyone is a specialist, which I hate. Very few can actually play the game. And in translating those skills, the broadcasters are equally guilty. I made the assessment a couple of shows ago that people should have noticed how great Chris Bosh played in that final game. He didn't score 1 fucking point, but he was responsible for playing defense. He was a presence on the floor. He assisted. He did all the dirty work, and he has 2 rings now. 2. But yet, after that championship was won, they tried to tear a hole in Chris Bosh, trying to imply that he was the weakest link, instead of pointing out the intangibles that he did in doing grunt work during the course of that game that allowed Miami to be successful and win another championship. But you made a point about Dick Vitale, which I think is worth carrying on here. They always talk about players being coach killers. You never hear about coaches being fucking talent killers. I saw at least 2 of them when I was out in Vancouver covering the Grizzlies with Brian Winters and Brian Hill. These boys were fucking awful. They had Mike Bibby sitting on the bench. They would not utilize him properly because they wanted to run the standard offense and try to funnel it in to Big Country's lazy ass, Bryant Reeves, who had never really played against a big man in the playoffs there at the NCAAs, so nobody really knew how you would really go up against a big guy. First game he's playing against Arvydas Sabonis, the great Russian player who's long past his prime. He's 7'3", and he got no knees. He can't jump. He blocks 4 of Bryant Reeves' shots. And yet they're still running the same garbage instead of changing up. It wasn't until Lionel Hollins got his shot where Mike Bibby actually had a chance to get a career in this league. You look at that, and I know for a fact there were at least 3 other players on the Grizzlies who would have played better when they were in Vancouver, and had they had an opportunity, maybe they'd still be in Vancouver. So for every Dick Vitale that talks shit, we know there's at least a dozen coaches who don't know how to utilize talent properly. We already know that for a fact because we've already seen on videotape what some of them do, like that punk-ass Mike Price smacking kids around and calling them faggot and the N-word and all kinds of shit, and his little punk assistant Martelli. Just because you're the son of a coach don't mean you're not a son of a bitch. We saw them do these type of things to guys, and yet the kids will be labeled as lazy. The kids will be labeled as or characterized as being basketball dumb. and when, as you so accurately say, Fred, they're making decisions involving physics and probabilities at the speed of thought. But those are never highlighted as being things that involve brain power. All of those things are considered athletic, and so because they're athletic, they're considered more to being in an animal vein than to being credited for the cerebral aspect that all competitive sports have. And now the chat room is coming in with some flavor now, also saying, why do you believe McGrady and Vince left Canada with the Raptors? I understand why they left. Their coach couldn't fucking coach, for sure. And you know, Travis, as you hear all of this, when are we going to see, when are they going to see the truth come out where coaches get exposed? Because D'Antoni is not going to ever win a championship as I see it. And I think Fred would agree with me. And I think you would agree with me. But why are the D'Antonis of the league being allowed to flourish when they know collectively that this motherfucker don't know what the fuck he's doing?
At the end of the day, it's all politics to me. Because at the end of the day, an NBA player will make the coach, and an NBA player can break the coach. Sure. And the prime example I have for that is Mike Brown. Soon as LeBron did his decision, Mike Brown automatically got burnt straight in the ass, and they got rid of him. They said anybody associated with LeBron James, they're out of here. You know, and he was a great coach, great defensive mind. He was under Greg Popovich and everything. But then, as soon as that happened, they wanted to burn the bridges. Now all of a sudden, they hired him back. And he's like sitting there wondering why y'all want me back now when I was already here doing what I had to do. Exactly. So when it comes to the coaches like D'Antoni's and the Spoelstras, the players are gonna make them. I don't think Eric Spoelstra. How do you come from being a videographer and then all of a sudden you're gonna be a head coach? Like, I don't understand how you go from editing game material for a team to being the coach of the team. I don't understand how that happened. I don't understand how that can happen. I can see if he had, I can see if he played in the league or anything.
Fred, before you answer, I would say that's credit to just how intelligent a basketball team the Miami Heat is. They won 2 championships, in spite of their head coach. And frankly, they should have won 3. They should have went back to back to back. But because of their head coach, it never manifested. Go ahead, Professor.
Well, one of the things that's being missed here, we've seen this, we see this in several other organizations. I'll just draw a parallel between Danny Ainge and Mike Davis and Jerry Jones.
Okay.
We have wannabe owners, wannabe general manager, et cetera, who actually deep down who really want to be coaches. And the way they do, you may not see them on the sideline,
right.
You're not privy to the phone calls back and forth to the box. But you see it in the other actions that goes on around them. You're going to get rid of 40-50% of your scoring power in one swoop.
Yep.
And if you count back a year, you got rid of even more because the other young man left the year before. He got a ring this year. He went south. He went from the cold of Boston to the nice warmth of Miami, along with them good-looking women.
That's right.
So and remember now he and by their standard they're gonna put him in a class where he's not all that smart. Travis, you may or may not know this, but you think back to when an interview with Bill Russell many years ago. And this was in the latter stages of his career, and I've seen a couple of interviews since then where among the few interviews that I think he did, he talked about, well, how did you the ball leaves the hand, look at the spin, where it's going to end up, so I just moved to that spot. How do you know that? He said it's just physics. And caught off guard, the comeback is, oh, what do you mean it's just physics? That's all it is. It's physics. His dad made him take physics. Now, and see, remember, Bill Russell's dad wasn't an average, stupid Southern Negro. It's not only you gotta take it, you gotta do well in it. Because Russell's dad told me, if you can't do well in school, you can't play basketball.
There it is.
And he was one of the few black college players I know I've ever heard of at HBCUs and non-HBCUs who took physics in college. So when he says I knew where the ball was gonna go, he may have known where the ball was gonna go, because Cleo Hill used to do this little thing. He could tell even now, and Cleo is knocking on 70, and he can look at a ball and tell, son, why didn't you move? Didn't you see the ball rolling? Didn't you see the ball roll over? Didn't you see the ball roll over when it hit the backboard? And you look at that kind of stuff and you say, well, it's just sports. No, we got players out there who exercise all the sciences, and if we and our coaches, because so many of the white coaches, especially, and some blacks, but especially the white coaches, have such little regard for the mental capacity, the true mental capacity of black people in general, and their black players specifically. You end up with all these things out there, and you wonder, well, where did it come from? Where did this up tempo come from?
Yeah.
Well, Coach so and so at some overpaid coach at some big white university came up with this. No, because white coaches used to walk the ball up.
That's exactly right.
We had press and run. You had fast break basketball. You had up tempo. And that was, and think about it now. We had black people who considered basketball a sissy sport until McClendon came on in his system, and then until the system spread out into across the high schools, i.e. the 100+ black high schools in North Carolina that played basketball, sometimes even outside. Because most people know that. Now his name was my memory. But he's from North Carolina. One of our first guys to go into the NBA.
Charlie Scott.
Who?
Charlie Scott.
No. Charlie Scott was way down. His name will come back to me. Anyway, he's from Kinston, North Carolina. And this young man played. He was an all-state football player. He was also an all-state basketball player. He played at Indiana. Baylor. Anyway, he played his home. Matter of fact, 2/3 of his high school games were played outdoors because his home gym only had walls; it had no roof.
Yeah.
But even in that scenario, this young man went from North Carolina, where he could not go to. He was University of North Carolina in the 50s. He went from North Carolina to Indiana, made All-America at Indiana, and from there he went on to participate on the U.S. Olympic team, et cetera, et cetera. And see, these are the guys who will play in the McClendon system, even though sometimes they didn't even call it that. They just played up-tempo basketball.
Yeah.
Either way you want to look at it, though. Either way you want to look at it. These are the guys who built what we now know as basketball in the NBA, as well as at college level. And these are the guys who are, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, he still gets screwed behind this. Why?
Yep.
Because he went to one of them tailored schools. He didn't have no white coach early on in his life. I.e., Aaron McNair, he didn't have no white coach because he couldn't be so good, but so good. And we won't even get into the kind of crap that was said about Jerry Rice and how slow he was.
Oh, God, yes.
But guess what? You never saw him get caught. The only time he got caught from behind was on a bad pass.
Exactly. I can say that for a fact from sitting in the press box watching a lot of Niners. I never saw Jerry get caught from behind. I think one time in Oakland he got pushed out of bounds, but it wasn't like he had a straight line and travel where somebody had to chase and catch. But I can tell you this much. Now we get more love from the chat room. They like the Iguodala pickup, Travis, of the Golden State Warriors because they needed a defensive forward. And Iguodala has always made his bones as being somebody that will play defense. But the vibe is that, and and I'm getting somebody who's a Laker fan here, that they didn't like Howard and they didn't like how they were trying to woo Howard. We know that the NBA needs the Lakers. How bad do you think the Lakers are going to be, and what will be their disaster plan in trying to put together a squad?
I think the Lakers are in tank mode now. You know, just like everybody said the Celtics should be, because first of all, Kobe Bryant is still hurt. You know what I'm saying? He's still in the healing process, and he should be good. They said by All-Star Weekend. So, I mean, that's half the season right there, and that means it's only going to be Pau Gasol and all those all the 12 dwarves that are included.
Yeah, and we know that D'Antoni didn't like Gasol because he didn't know how to use him.
Exactly. He had him riding the bench all last year. So, I mean,
dumbass.
He just put him in. He put him in at desperate times. You know, desperate times, called for desperate measures. So he definitely put him in. But he tried to do the little twin towers like, Dave Robinson and Tim Duncan with Powell and Dwight. But he waited too long. So I think that the Lakers will be in trouble. I feel like they're going to tank the season because if they tank the season, one, they have a lot of cap space now for next year's free agency, and two, if they tank and they get the number 1 draft pick, Andrew Wiggins, that would be huge right there.
Now, that's interesting. I'm glad you said that because the issue of the draft has always been one that's been shrouded. Now, I don't have facts to verify this, but I can truly speculate that in my heart, there's no fucking way that the Knicks were not going to get Patrick Ewing in the draft that year. They seeded that bad boy as if it was a what's the company that makes the seed and whatnot, the lawn company. They seeded that bad boy to make sure that Patrick was going to be chosen by the Knicks. I think in the self-same manner with the way that LeBron had left and the way that LeBron made money. I'm getting some love again. The Lakers don't tank seasons. That's not their modus operandi. But I truly believe that things were set up for Cleveland to pick up the first-round draft pick again because of LeBron and all that money that left Cleveland. Behind closed doors, we know there's a whole bunch of Dick Dastardly stuff that's going on with the politics. But the bottom line here is that they can't afford their major markets to be out of the loop. They need L.A. because no other market is as attractive to them. They know. We already know they don't want Sacramento. Denver, Denver's okay, but Denver's not going to warm the cockles of anybody's heart out there. Golden State would be great, but Golden State still might be a year or so away, depending on how things run. And if they don't play defense, they're going to get run out the gym too, because they're a jump shooting team. We know, live by the jump shot, die by the jump shot. So Houston, really, it is going to be about Texas. Between Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas, even if Dallas is on a down, the cameras are going to be focused on Texas.
Yep.
And OKC really is a small market. So, depending on what Russell Westbrook does, the TV guys are definitely talking as we speak, and I don't think the conversation is going to be a pleasant one because they know they got to go to resort to Plan B, C, and like you said, it's cold pink right now. So they might be in panic mode in another month or so, depending on how the Lakers do or don't do in trying to acquire talent to compensate for missing out on Dwight Howard. Give us the last word on Howard, on how you feel this will help Houston, whether they get Josh Smith or not, because their roster's not bad. They got Chase Budinger who can ball, Jeremy Lin, Harden. They got some parts in place. So even if they don't get anything else, where do you think, or how far do you think Houston will go?
All right. Now I want to say this: Josh Smith just signed 4-year, $56 million to the Pistons right now. So that's that's out the gate right there. He just signed with the Pistons.
Wow.
And all the now the buzz. I'm getting text messages and stuff like that. The Celtics are talking about trading with Pistons. Greg Monroe, and Brandon Knight and Stuckey in a first-round pick for Rondo, and they wanted what's his name, Avery Bradley. So those two for Rondo. Yeah, so all those players right there.
So you were right again. You said that Smith and Rondo were tight. So now Detroit is trying to find a way to work it so that they can get in here and put them together in Detroit. Now, the chat was also giving us some love. They want you to get rid of Kendrick Perkins out in OKC and Danny Granger, who was a very good player for Indiana before.
Yep.
Now he might be available. Should the Lakers go out and aggressively try to acquire Danny Granger?
Danny Granger would be a good pickup, but I don't think Danny wants to leave the situation in Indiana right now, especially with
they're close.
How far? Yeah, they're really close. So if you added Danny Granger to that mix of this, how close they were this year, he was an all-star. Everybody forgets that he was their all-star before Paul George.
That's right.
So if you add both of them plus Roy Hibbert, who is also an all-star, then you got that's a good team right there. So I don't think that they want to mess that up. The only way I see Danny Granger going to the Lakers is if the Lakers throw the whole bank at him.
Well, the chat room's giving us some backup love. They're saying that Granger seems like the odd man out. That Paul George, Travis Stevenson, and a lot of others have stepped up. Granger would seem like square peg round hole situation, and he would have some value as an asset in trade to some place like the Lakers. But the question would be, what do the Lakers have to offer in return other than maybe a draft pick?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think the Lakers have anything. Yeah, will Kobe approve? That's another thing.
That's a good point.
The thing I think, personally, I don't think they have the right pieces to give to a team right now, honestly. Because once you have Steve Nash, who is washed up, he's at the end of his road.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you have Steve Nash, you got Kobe, who's coming off his injury, and then you got Pau Gasol, who is not being, used the right way. And then you have all these other pieces. Jody Meeks, he's not irrelevant to me in the league.
Oh, hell no.
Then you have Steve Blake. You got Blake, who showed some signs last year, but, he wasn't there. Then you have Jameson, who's been washed up and trying to hold on to the laundry, the laundry hanger for the longest, trying to stay in the yard. So, they don't have the right pieces to actually make something happen in a trade. So unless they're going to throw the future at somebody for an all-star, which I don't see the Lakers doing that either, because right now they're about to be in that rebuilding stage, so why would you give those future pieces away?
Yeah, and they seem like the chat room says all the Lakers have to throw at anybody is money, but they also brought up a great point. We saw LeBron get better each year post-Miami. He worked on his medium-range jump shooting. He drove to the basket. We saw other players get better. We saw a kid like Paul George just either, whether it was just confidence or playing time, because frankly, anybody in the NBA right now, is they're a real player, they have the ability to score 20 points even if you're the 12th man. It's all about playing time. So we've seen some improve in that regard. But will this move to Houston make Dwight Howard learn to shoot a fucking free throw? Think about the numbers of games that Houston would win if Dwight even shoots at 70%. I can shoot better free throws than Dwight Howard at this point in my life, and that's a damn shame to say that, knowing that he's a professional and getting paid money, and I don't think he's a bad person. But something like a free throw is a gimme. Fred, that stuff's taught in practice. A lot of times you don't even leave the floor in practice unless free throws are made. That's like about as basic a staple as you can get.
Well, Shaq played how many years and still can't shoot?
Yep.
He started developing at the end.
He got better. He got better at the end.
The
only reason he got better at the end of his career, he wanted to hit one, so it would take more time to so he could rest before he went down the court. And by the way,
that's right.
The name I was trying to remember before was Walt Bellamy. Walt Bellamy never had a
Bellamy, thank you. That's who it was. Yes.
He never had an indoor gym, home indoor gym. The only games he played indoors were either on the road or during the tournament, which was played at most like Shaw University or North Carolina A&T during that time. But shooting free throws is probably, like you say, it's a gimme if you take it. Unfortunately, you get to a point where some of these guys now they don't even take oh, I just put it up there and we'll rest a little bit while we were hanging around here, and then we'll head back down to court. And how many? You're right. How many games are won and lost? And see, realistically, what you have to watch again. We're back to my total distrust of the NBA. Is who actually get called on, because remember Hacker Shack and all that other stuff.
Yep.
What's going on? But then sometimes you'd be watching these games. You say, wait a minute. He couldn't lay down and touch Shaq. Why is he being called for a foul against Shaq? Because this is the kind of crap that the NBA, through its officials, have done for years.
Yep.
You wave at a guy, he's on the other side of the free throw lane, and you get called for a foul.
Yep.
They're called chippies or whatever you want to call them.
That's right.
And see, the NBA has become, as a game, a true game has become less and less over the last 20 years.
Yep.
And and it's not getting any better, because think about it. Why do you need I don't know who's calling games now because I don't watch, but why do you need them to tell you what you're looking at? You're watching the game. We're back to the whole Dick Vitale syndrome. I don't need that moron who has never demonstrated any true knowledge of basketball. In my humble opinion, I don't need him telling me what I'm watching. And usually, if he's on, I watch a lot of ACC games because I'm in the ACC country, and I watch a lot of games. I'll admit it. And but if he's doing the game, I will not have the sound on. I will turn. It's like, and usually does the Duke games. I will turn the radio on, listen to Harris, who I've listened to for 30-some years, and I will turn the sound down on the television and watch. Sometimes I don't even bother to have the TV on. I will just turn the radio on and listen to the game. My mind work, because that's one of my mental exercises, and let it go from there. Because there's certain levels of stupidity I just refuse to drop below. And listening to the Dick Vitale of the world is just one of them. I used to have a lot of respect for Billy Packer, mainly because Billy Packer was one of the few of the old announcers who would just come out and say, hey, those, I will never get the time doing an ACC games, you're talking about some of the best competition you ever faced. He said, well, then Whitaker Gym. Well, where's Whitaker Gym? Well, that's Winston-Salem State. Well, Winston? Who is over there? That's a black school. He said, they had Cleo Hill, and he goes down the list because Billy Packer used to come over to Winston-Salem State and watch games. Billy Packer used to come to Winston-Salem State and play games. Winston's team would go over to Wake Forest and Wake Chapel, which really is a gym, and play on Sunday afternoons during the off season. And he gave props where props were due, because he would tell you it was rougher playing against those guys from Winston-Salem State than it was playing against guys in the ACC. Well, that's Division I. There were a bunch of Division I white boys who, in 5 years after Charlie Scott signed, most of whom had disappeared.
There you go. There you go. See, I was
talking about the Pony Express a little bit ago. One of the funny stories about the Pony Express, how good were they? They ran Charlie Scott and the GOAT off the floor. They beat them by about 30 points.
Oh, shit.
And we know the GOAT was the truth. And Charlie Scott Charlie Scott and the GOAT were at least as tall as the tallest player who really played for the Express. So this is the quality of North Carolina basketball that nobody wants to give them credit for. But as I said, Walt Bellamy is in the Hall of Fame. Meadowlark Lemon could have easily made it as a player on a legitimate team because he was that good, or he could have gone to the NFL because he was just that good.
Fred, as you say these things, and Cowboy Reggie's back in the mix, we can't ignore the fact, and this is to the height of ESPN's hypocrisy, since we started in their ass, I'm going to stay with my foot in their ass, that they would air something like Black Magic, and people would see the truth in front of them. And Fred was a contributor to Black Magic out there for those in Sultry Nation that you may not know. But you would hear see it yourself. You'd see proof right in front of your eyes. And in the same breath, these same motherfuckers from ESPN would close it as if, oh, okay, yeah, we did our penance and shit. So now let's tell you about how great Dean Smith is. After you've already been told that John McClendon was responsible for the Four Corners offense, you would think that they would never make any references to Dean Smith being the master of the Four Corners ever again, but that's exactly what they did. That's the smack in the face.
It doesn't stop there. They talk about Roy Williams and up tempo.
Yeah.
Now the same guy that Dean Smith got the Four Corners that he screwed up. Let's keep it real. That he screwed up holding the ball, which is now why we have the shot clock. Okay. Yep. The same guy who gave him the Four Corners also gave him up tempo basketball, fast break basketball. The stuff that you know, and what does Roy Williams want to get you into? A running game, so his athletes can go one on one, and you know, we break down your defense before you get a chance to set it and all that other stuff. This is the scheme. Well, that's what McClendon ran with the Mighty Mites, who were 5'9", 5'6", 5'6", 5'9", and 6'2". You know, and the 6'2" guy was my high school, my science teacher. You know, who actually was a tackle on the football team. He's just come back from the war. You see, this is the kind. These are the kinds of things that are out there, and you talk black schools have learned to do more with less. These are the kind. This is where the game, as far as North Carolina goes, this is where the true North Carolina / Tobacco Road really was. And those little dinky gyms, some of them were built out of surplus military lumber, like my high school gym and several others that we played in. And this is where the game came from. Because, see, what the white boys was playing, it was easy to beat them because, you know, the reason we had to press them full court was they were going to walk the ball up. We didn't have time for all that. Yep. When we would get the ball up in three to four passes, we were in their stuff. Yep. And if we brought the ball in from the baseline, if they happened to score, first pass was almost half court. And they will be dropped. You know, half time their back was turned. By the time they turned around, you know, by the time the coach got there to turn around, the ball was going over all around them.
Fred, hold up a second because we're almost coming to the hour. I just want everybody to know, if you're listening, we will go past 4 o'clock slightly. If somehow you get cut off at the end, we will have the full show resaved, and you'll be able to hear it in its entirety at another time. Cowboy, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, I just want to make sure I got you in here. Go ahead, Fred. Continue, please.
And see, one of the very good things that has come out of the research that's been done on the high schools in North Carolina, because I know this was going on in Virginia, South Carolina, right on across the South. Because if you look at Black Magic, the two guys you see right off was Willis Reed and Bob Love. Well, you know, even before them, we had Bob Hopkins, who put up 37.55 when nobody had even dreamed of a 3-point line. Man scored 3,755 points plus pulled down almost 2,000 rebounds. Yeah. And guess what? Has he made it to the Basketball Hall of Fame yet? No. Nope. He just got inducted into the College Hall of Fame. And this is the kind of sham and sheen that's going on out there. And I was talking to the gentleman who I'm actually helping put together this book on the black high schools for North Carolina. He had the beauty of playing in this conference. He also played under Coach McClendon for a year. And was a teammate of Sam Jones and McCullough and a couple of other guys who went on to be great coaches. And this is where all this stuff came from. And we get up there with these mealy-mouthed know-it-alls who know nothing, guys who want to basically water down what was done by black folks because they want to give white folks all the credit, and it's nonsense. This is part of what was proven in Black Magic. When Black Magic was done, even the producer shook his head at times because he had heard so many different things which proved to be pure, blatant lies.
I know this for a fact because we actually interviewed the producer when I was on another show. We said it. I asked him, I said, why are they still making references to Dean Smith? Why are they making references to Roy Williams when it was already put out there in black and white, live and in living color, that it was McClendon? And he said, I don't know. You got the producer of the show. The producer saying this shit.
And we don't even have to say, because, see, Earl Monroe was one of the producers, but you were probably talking about Dan Cloris.
I am talking about Cloris, yes.
And Dan, see, one of the things Dan has wanted to do, not only get some more of these guys into the Hall of Fame, but, let's if you're going to tell lies, tell good ones.
That's right.
Don't come with this little mealy mouth stuff or no. If you got to go that route, then you're wrong anyway. But see, when we look back at the different things that we know now as to being what the facts, the truth, and the facts are, we have the facts, we have the truth, and it'll be out in about 3 weeks. But when we look at all this stuff that's going on around us, it's no wonder that you got Stephen A. and all these other clowns up there barking all this stuff. And remember, they have to say it faster than anybody and louder than anybody.
That's right.
Because otherwise, you start learning they lying.
That's right.
There's no end to this nonsense. And, when you look around and you say, well, I can't believe that happened. Well, it did. And it happened, we were the tree that fell in the woods, and because certain people decided they didn't want to be around to hear it,
exactly.
Snap, I'm sorry, you missed your opportunity. Because when you look around, these, like even tennis with black folks, the ATA was out there and producing great tennis players long before Venus and Serena came along. And, those are the kids who played in high school, at black high schools in North Carolina. Poor from one family. Poor girls from one family. And the young man from across town, he was one of the best tennis players. He went on to Johnson C. Smith won. I think he lost two singles matches in 4 years. He's an educator now, and all these folks have gone out there and done these things, and we got people out there who want to downplay what they did because white folks decided they didn't want to see it.
Exactly.
Which is truly unfortunate because they missed some great games. Trust me, they missed. I saw lots of them. They missed some great games. They missed great games because I've seen film of the OCIAA. Jackie Jackson had played with the Globetrotters for about 20 years.
Yep.
He could out-jump Dr. J, the Hawk, you name it. This could go on. This man could go up and pull a quarter off the backboard, okay? Off the top of the backboard. Now, we're not talking about off the rim. We're talking about off the top of the backboard. And, he went to Little Virginia Union. Well, it had nothing to do with his jumping ability. It had nothing to do with the 25 rebounds he was pulling down a game. Yes, 2-5.
Oh, don't let them truths get in the way of a good story. We always hear when a white guy comes out of a small school, he was an exemplary talent at this tiny school. They look to maximize him and deify, which is Tony McClain's word, and I love it because Tony hits it right on the head. They deify the guy. Black kid comes from a small school or a predominantly black school. Well, we have to question the caliber of talent that he was playing under. Where you wasn't questioning that caliber of talent back in the 60s when all them black players was whipping everybody's ass in the AFL. And you surely weren't questioning them when they finally decided to come to your schools, especially after Alabama got run over by USC and Sam Bam Cunningham. But that's a separate story for another time. I want to go into final thoughts here because this needs to be put out there. I think it was either Fred or Reggie who put up the whole concept of talking about how high school kids are being exploited. in my book, Imitation in Life, which you can find now on Amazon.com, I make the point about a local school in New York City, Murray Bergstrom, whose girls' team has been one of the best programs in the area for a long, long time. Of course, mostly black and Latino. And I won't mention the company, but one company offered them new sneakers on the eve of their championship game. Now, we all know from playing, you don't play with new sneakers. Sneakers have to be broken in. So, the guy left the sneakers there for them, and the coach said they can't wear them. And when the girls came back and had won the championship, because the sneakers were left in the locker room, when the girls came back with the championship trophy, they came back to their lockers only to find that the sneakers were gone. Now, first they thought, school being school, somebody went down there and jacked their sneakers. But they found out that the company took the sneakers back because they wouldn't wear brand new sneakers the day of a championship game. Now, that speaks a whole bunch of things, but just the fact that they would go and do something like that because they didn't serve their masters when they wanted them to lies at the heart of what's so-called amateur sports. And I think if this is affecting high schools even further, it's going to be in bigger problem. As they talk about kids leaving early and some of these assholes lamenting about, how good the game would be if so-and-so had stayed and gone 3 years. No, how poor that kid would be if he had stayed there another 2 years, and how rich some other asshole coaching him would have been because he would have pimped out his talent. But as Reggie likes to say, I digress. So, having said that, Travis, it has been really good having you here for the time and serving some good stuff up. I want you to please throw something in the pot for your final thought and make a shameless plug, if you will. Anything you want to talk about, the floor is yours.
I just wanted to go off of what you just said. That goes back to the Fab Five days, because they were sitting there playing their hearts out, and at the end of the day, Nike is milking everything that they did, even from the jersey sales to the socks to the sneakers, and they were sitting there like, I can't even afford to buy groceries.
That's right.
So just to go off of what you said, that was, the days that we're in now. That's why Nike starts these players off really early, because they know that they see the potential, and any player that's coming up right now could be the next LeBron James. So that's how they see it. But for me, my last saying would be, I just want to say that everybody needs to just watch out for what's going to happen with the Celtics and what's going to happen in Boston, because there's a lot of rumors swirling around. But about Rondo and about the situation there, and if he's gonna stay, how does he like the new coach? And I believe that if the Celtics do move Rondo, it's gonna be hard for me to be a Celtics fan. Knowing that we're a town that's used to winning. We don't come from losing. So for them to actually do that, it all depends on Rondo. And this is the fact that I want to make. With Rondo, if you look at it, ever since 2006, 2007, 2008 season when we won the championship, he's been in over 30 trade rumors since that year. Since that 2007, 2008 year, he's been in over 30 trade rumors, and it's crazy because he's still here. But at the end of the day, he showed his loyalty to his contract, but when his time is up, I don't think he'll show his loyalty to us. Just the fact that that you're playing and you don't know what city you're going to be playing in every year, that's not good for an athlete. And that's the same thing that a lot of people still scrutinize me for actually saying that Ray Allen was right for leaving. Ray Allen, he's been right after we won the championship. He was in a trade rumor for he was in trade talks for Tracy McGrady. Like, a lot of people don't know that. But at the end of the day, Ray Allen is now a two-time champion, and he made the right decision, went to Miami. He went to a place that actually loves his game and loves him as a person. And if you look at the Celtics organization, it doesn't look like they love Rondo as much as Miami loves Ray Allen. it seems like they're waiting for Rondo to slip up just to get him out of there. You know what I'm saying? Or he's waiting. That's why I feel like he's waiting to get the Celtics and just be like, you know what? I'm going to take my talents to blank. I'm going to go to Detroit. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. Because at the end of the day, in professional sports, if you're trying to build a bond and you're trying to build loyalty, you're going to have to stand by your best player. They haven't stood by Rondo. They haven't stood by Rondo since they won the championship, in my opinion. Because I believe that all these trade rumors are just demising his game. And every time they put him in a trade rumor, he pops up with a game 20, 20, 20. You know what I'm saying? 20 assists, 20 rebounds, 20 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, he always brings out these stellar games when they put him in these rumors. So at the end of the day, I feel like as soon as he plays good, I believe the Celtics will trade him by trade deadline, because I don't think he's just the vibe I get from him. I just don't think that he'll stay around. But you never know. But at the end of the day, it's a business. So the way they're treating him, I know that he doesn't like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I wanted to stick y'all with.
All right. Y'all, you all can check out Travis's work on Black Athlete Sports Network. He is our basketball writer, and a damn good one. Travis, as always, thank you for putting something in the pot for us. Cowboy?
Yes, sir.
All right, brother, time to saddle up. Give me a final thought and a shameless plug, if you will.
Well, Travis, good job, man. It's interesting. I'm just checking the website where breaking news: the 777 Asian plane just crash landed in San Francisco International Airport. So we kind of looking at that. So you know, on your show we break news everywhere. But it's kind of interesting that one of the Lakers guys, I think Joe Meeks, tweeted when he heard the news of Dwight Howard leaving. He tweeted a picture of Dwight Howard dressed as a WNBA player. Yeah. And I'm saying again that here's a individual that not only made an ignorant comment by tweeting that picture, but shows his ignorance himself. Because guess what?
And he's a scrub to boot.
That's what I'm saying. He's not irrelevant.
And my whole thing is one day you're going to be in a situation where you might have a contract, and you'll see if the same comes to you. So once again, these players show their ignorance. I mean, again, the players' union in baseball, you don't see that. That's why the players' union in baseball is the strongest union out there. But then again, hey, don't let the facts get away the argument. But I just want to say again that the high school players today, somebody need to grab these kids and understand that you do not need to be doing these combines just to get your face and be all on TV. You brought your knee one good time running these stupid A combines, which guess what, ladies and gentlemen, you already have a contract with the colleges, and Dr. Whit so ever put it. It's only for 1 year. And just like the young baseball player that the mouth did the story on, that the coach gave his kidney to, well, guess what? The first question was asked by his parents, is his scholarship still available? That was the first question. It wasn't for that coach giving that young man a kidney down at Wake Forest. His parents would have been on hook for a big aid bill. So, again, Sports Talk every Saturday from 12 to 1 on 1450WSMRadio.com with the Professor Tony Cobb, the CIW Hall of Famer, Coach Lou Anderson, and some guy named Cowboy Red Jen. In closing, I was really sad to see Daryl Jacobs leave Virginia State to go to coach up in New York at Queens College. But sometimes, all I got to say is football rule the roots and basketball takes the back seat. That's why I'm going to end on that note.
Yeah, I understand perfectly, my brother. Professor, it is your time for last thoughts and shameless plug, if you would.
I'll go ahead and get this out of the way to Reggie and the Trojans. I feel sorry for you. I know what it's like to lose a coach like that. It's not going to matter come, and we probably play like in the first week of December. You get all about all that.
I already whooped that ass already, huh, Coach? Hey, we'll sit together on the sidelines. We'll watch the game together.
You won't sit next to me long. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I think I want to thank Mike for spearheading all this and getting keeping some things in perspective. At various times during the show today, I kept talking about this book I'm doing on the black college. It's called the Black Conference, which is actually the story of the black high schools in North Carolina. It's probably one of the richest history that had never been written until now, and we're trying to get it done before too many more of the greats who helped put all this stuff together pass on. You can go to our website, www.blackheritagereview.com, and place an order. It's called the Black Conference. And a lot of the things that the perceptions that you've had about not only black colleges, but black high schools and black colleges in North Carolina are addressed here, because basically it was just one continuous conveyor belt from the high schools into the colleges. Not all the black athletes in North Carolina in the CIAA and the OEIAC who went to the Norfolks, the Virginia State, Winston-Salem's, and A&T's and so forth came from up north. A lot of those players came from down south. Like I say, Walt Bellamy played in Kinston, North Carolina. He went on to be all NBA, all NCAA. He was on the He was the first North Carolinian on an Olympic team. So, all those stories are covered in that book, along with the story of the Pony Express. All I can say about the Pony Express is, if you've ever wanted to see run and gun or good hard pressure defense, I say it this way: they played like John Thompson wished his guys would play, along with Nolan Richardson, because those guys put up 100-plus points per night in a 32-minute game. So you can imagine what their games look like. But hey,
damn, scary good. Fred, give them the website.
www.blackheritagereview.com.
All right.
And it's inexpensive enough that even Reggie can afford it.
Oh, see, there you go. Now, and in that spirit, again, the website address is www.blackheritagereview.com. Shameless plug for my own book, Imitation and Life. Actually have sold a couple of books. I'm known that the Soul Tree staff will also be purchasing books as well. Hint, hint. Humph. And I think you'll all find it a good read. I think everybody will find it a good read. It's also available via Kindle, so get on the download. You can scoop up a copy there as well. But as we were segueing for Gary, as the Cove is already on, I want to set the table for those who will be jumping in the Cove by going where Gary left in talking about the Washington Football Club's owner, Dan Snyder, and his fake-ass Indian chief. And I'm going to read verbatim so that everybody won't hear. And this came from Deadspin, by the way. I have to give them credit for this, because you wouldn't think that they'd have the arrogance to do this. But, as the last poet used to say, the white man has a God complex. So I'm reading verbatim. Lately, the Washington Redskins are having a harder time defending the team's name than the rest of the NFC East had defending the read option last season. One of the more entertaining parts, and I'm only reading this shit because the name is in the copy, of Redskins owner Dan Snyder's effort has been his ongoing Indians Love Redskins campaign, whereby the team calls attention to any high schools in tribal areas that don't hate the name, and to any Indian officials who are okay with it too. And perhaps the high point of this came with the May 3rd broadcast of the Snyder-produced TV show Redskins Nation. The program featured a guest introduced as Chief Dodson, who was described in a press release written up by the Redskins PR department after the taping as, quote, a full-blooded American Inuit chief originally from the Aleutian tribes of Alaska, who represents more than 700 remaining tribe members. Dodson was an enthusiastic and earnest pitchman for the team's name, and he went further than management could have hoped. Maybe too far, as we'll see. Dodson told the show's host, Redskins broadcasting boss Larry Michael, that his deceased father, Nigel Lindsay, was also a chief. Dodson said he felt compelled to step forward because he and his family were upset that, quote, people are speaking for Native Americans that aren't Native American. Quote, being a full-blooded Indian with my whole family behind me, we had a big problem with some of the things that were coming out in the debate over the name, he said. I think they were basically saying that we were offended, our people were offended, and that they were misrepresenting the Native American nation. We don't have a problem with the name at all. In fact, we're honored. We're quite honored, end quote. Dodson added that all the Indians he knows are fine with Redskins, even in a non-football context. Quote, it's actually a term of endearment that we would refer to each other as, Dodson said. When we were on the reservation, we'd call each other, hey, what's up, Redskin? We'd nickname it and call each other Skins. We respected each other with that term. It's not degrading in one bit. Dodson got in a big pitch for his employer, Charlie's Crane Services, a tow company headquartered in Landover, Maryland, very close to FedEx Field. The tow company could use a plug. The Better Business Bureau has given Charlie's Crane Service a grade of F because of consumer complaints and how they were handled. And then Dodson went on to gush about the team's fight song, Hail to the Redskins. That's a respectful thing, he told the show host. A lot of people think that's a gimmick or a joke, a good song, but that's a respectful thing. And it's another thing that helps me appreciate everything you're doing. Quote, the original version of Hail to the Redskins actually included a verse that contains what to the lay ear sure sounds like a shoo-in for the most racially offensive lyrics in the history of NFL fight songs. Scalp 'em, swamp 'em, we'll take 'em, big score. Read 'em, weep 'em, touchdown, we want heat more. Those stories differ on when the offensive lyric was removed. One account has team president Edward Bennett Williams, ordering the song Scrubbing in the 1970s during an earlier anti-name wave. Remember, the sign used to say, fight for old Dixie, and not fight for old D.C. Just days after Dodson's stint on his infomercial, Snyder, perhaps emboldened, gave USA Today a swaggering interview that included his most dogmatic comments on the name issue yet. We'll never change the name, Snyder said. It's that simple. Never. You can use caps. The NFL's commissioner, with his punk ass, trying to score points with Congress, leaned on the Redskins' too-good-to-be-true spokesmodel, too. On June 5th, Roger Goodell wrote to the co-chairs of the Congressional Native American Caucus, whose members have been urging the team to change the name. On NFL letterhead, the league boss alleged that Redskins was a unifying force that stands for strength, courage, pride, and respect. Importantly, this positive meaning is shared by the overwhelming majority of football fans and Americans generally, including Native Americans, Goodell wrote. And as Exhibit A, Goodell cited the support of Chief Stephen Dobson, who Goodell identified as an American Inuit chief and resident of Prince George's County, Maryland. Alas, there's a lot of evidence, though, that Chief Dodson, whose real name is Stephen D. Dodson, ain't the perfect pitchman Snyder and Goodell want him to be. Turns out their full-blooded American Inuit chief is neither full-blooded American Inuit nor a chief in any formal sense of the term. Let's start with the last part. Apparently, nobody but Dodson says Dodson's really a chief. The work shirt from Charlie's Crane Services that Dodson wore on Redskins Nation had Chief Dodson stitched into it alongside the company's name. But the only references I could find to Dodson and Chief that predate his appearance as Redskin-loving Aboriginal royalty appeared in court records in Maryland. Case files from some of Stephen D. Dodson's scrapes with the law involving theft, paternity, and domestic violence matters have Chief listed as one of the defendants, also known as, or aliases. When Indian Country Today ran a story about the Redskin Nation's appearance, a commenter purporting to be Dodson's relative said that Dodson's native bona fides had been exaggerated. The commenter said Dodson is not a full-blooded member of any tribe and is in fact 1/4 Aleut, not Inuit. And Chief, that was just his nickname, the commenter wrote. Carla Brushaber, who identified herself as Dodson's sister, said she had nothing to do with the Indian Country Today comment, but she confirmed that Dodson wasn't as advertised on the Redskins program. No, he's not a chief, not technically. It's a nickname. said Bruce Shaver, now living in Bellefontaine, Ohio, where Dodson went to high school, according to his 2000 wedding announcement in the Morning Call of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Asked why she thought Dodson was being portrayed by the Redskins and the NFL as an authentic Indian chief, Bruce Shaver said, somebody made a mistake and called him chief. The Redskins went full steam ahead of it. They didn't check it because it was helping them. The description of him used by the Redskins, a full-blooded American Inuit chief originally from the Aleutian tribes of Alaska, rings false to folks who studied the native peoples of that state. Quote, that is an archaic and incorrect expression. Aleut people and Inuit people are two different, separate, and distinct people and haven't had a common ancestor for at least 6,000 years, says Stephen Loring, an anthropologist with the Smithsonian Institute specializing in Arctic and subarctic archaeology and ethnohistory. Somebody would say they are Aleut, or somebody would say they are Inuit. The phrase full-blooded American Inuit chief originally from the Aleutian tribes of Alaska, Loring added, is incorrect terminology. It doesn't make sense. Translation? You're full of shit. What's more, both Kelly Nguyen, Executive Director of the Inuit Circumpolar Council Alaska, an Inuit group, and Larry Merkulieff, a prominent advocate for Aleut issues in Alaska, said chief isn't a designation any of their constituents would use now. It certainly wouldn't be used by someone who's not living among Inuits or Aleuts. Both said such a title, if granted at all, would only be conferred upon individuals who are elected by their people in their village. This would be tough in Bellefontaine, which according to the 2010 U.S. Census had a Native American population of 0.2%, or Prince George's County's 0.5%. Quote, I don't know anybody out of state who describes themselves as a chief, Merkulieff said. Nor does Dodson's self-description on the Redskins show as a full-blooded Indian pass the smell test. Aleuts do not call themselves Indian, Merkulieff said. We are Native Alaskans, but not Indian. And Inuits don't call themselves Indian, said Nguyen. Nguyen said she watched Dodson's performance online and laughed at some of his references to Native culture. I heard him say that he and his family go to powwows. Powwows aren't Aleut or Inuit, she said, and he talks about living on a reservation of some sort. There are no Inuit or Aleut reservations in Alaska. What of Dodson's contention that Aleuts and or Inuits regularly use redskin as a term of endearment? I have never called anybody redskin, Nguyen said. Nobody I know has ever called me redskin. I have never heard any Inuit call somebody redskin. But Dodson isn't ready to surrender any titles just yet. When I called to ask him who made him chief, he said the title was handed down by family. Quote, you have different types of chiefs, voted chiefs and blood chiefs, said Dodson, who identified himself as Chief Dodson when he returned a message left at Charlie's crane service. I'm the son of a chief. I'm at the shaman level, a different type of chief. You're born into it, and the shaman chooses you. The shaman chose my father. I was born into it. The Dodson family, I'm the head of that family, the chief of that family. It's not easy to explain. An obituary for Nigel Lindsay, who died in Bellefontaine in 2000, lists chief as a nickname for the deceased. When I told him that various groups representing Inuits and Aleuts in Alaska questioned the description of him as a full-blooded Inuit chief originally of Aleutian tribes, Dodson said, I don't get into organizational things like that. We are a people, and that's what we need to focus on instead of dealing with nonprofits run by Mexicans. Dodson said his family had authorized him to talk with only employees of the Washington Redskins about the name issue and not with any of those nasty old reporters. Then Stephen D. Dodson, imperfect Redskins spokesmodel, hung up. Oh, and about that middle initial, according to the aforementioned court filings, you'll love this, cowboy, it stands for Dallas. We'll see you Wednesday with the Hump Day special for myself, for Travis Singleton, for Cowboy Reggie, for Gary Norris Gray, for the professor. Kitchen's closed.